Where's the key? I need the key to drive. I'm going on a test ride. He doesn't even bring the key. Okay, so this is my first time driving the Dodge Magnum V10. Why is it called a Magnum? Isn't that a brand of a certain product that men use?
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
Oh, you're familiar with that one?
You're probably more familiar with that brand for ice cream.
Hi everyone, my name is Ian and this is Brandon. Welcome to another episode of Big Rock Media talking about trucks. So what we wanted to do today was we really wanted to talk about this generation Ram, which was 1994 through what?
It was 2001 on the half tons and through 2002 on the 2500 and 3500s.
And what we want to talk about with this generation Ram was just how revolutionary it actually was. And you know, standing in front of this old truck today, it's easy to make fun of it and call it an old kind of cheap beat up truck. But in fact, this generation of Ram really revolutionized the pickup truck market forever and changed it forever.
It was incredibly important not only for the evolution of large pickup trucks, but also for Dodge. At the time, their offering just was very much a distant third place to GM and Ford. You had it was called the D-Series pickup prior to the Ram in '94. And that truck, the style of it essentially was from 1972 to 1993.
That's insane.
It is absolutely insane. And actually the bones of that 72 truck went back into the 1960s. So the basic truck that you'd buy in 1993, a lot of it was dating the 1960s technology.
Right. So what we're going to do in this video today, here's what you can expect. We're going to take you on a tour kind of around inside and outside this truck. And as we do that, we're going to talk about what made this truck so revolutionary and how that sort of started the pickup truck wars. Because what happened was when Dodge introduced this, then everyone started to leapfrog each other in very short succession, and they kept having to change things every few years. Whereas before that, you saw them have huge 20, 30-year model runs, right?
Right. So at the time, you know, the GM pickup was the newest offering. They had come out in 1987. And before that, the square body, as everybody knows it, lasted from 73 to 87. The Ford of the time, when this truck came out, the basics of that truck went back to 1980. So the competition was also old, but not nearly as old as the D-Series.
Right. Okay, so we wanted to start at the front of the truck and talk about the styling. So why was the styling so revolutionary?
The styling was revolutionary because at the time, if you looked at the competition, they essentially looked like they were styled with a straight edge or a ruler. This truck had this big, bold cross-hatch grille. It had these separate fenders, and a lot of people describe this look still today as the Kenworth look. And it was so successful for Dodge that they kept it for 25 years until the 2019 redesign of the truck. Looking at this versus the prior D-Series truck from 1972 to 1993, it looks like it just came from a different planet. Between the arrowed edges, the wind tunnel testing that Dodge did, the rake of the windshield, the way that it sloped around the edge of the cab, they were really thinking about the quietness of this truck and having a style that would separate them. You know, in 1993, that truck was so old that it was a distant third place. They needed a look that would get people's attention so that they would look into all of the other things that Dodge did to make the truck better. You know, there were some funny little things. This truck doesn't have it, but even the antenna they thought of. If you look at some of the earlier trucks with the original antenna, the way the wind went around that was considered, the shape of the mirrors, the cab seals, the way the body was mounted to the frame, all of that was to set new standards for noise, vibration, and harshness.
Okay, so Brandon wants to talk about you know, the cab and the refinement of the interior and also the door. So why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about this truck, now this is one of the newer ones of this style. This is a 2000. But in 1998, Dodge began offering the only extended cab pickup with 4 opening doors. Imagine that. You can actually get into the back seat of an extended cab pickup from either side of the truck. Now, I'm not saying that they were the first to do the doors, but they were the first to do it on both sides. GM had it, I believe, in '96 and Ford in 1997. When this truck came out in '94, it also had the largest extended cab and largest back seat. You know, this is not a place I want to spend hours and hours on end, but it is passable in a way that maybe the competition wasn't at the time. It had a longer cab, more contoured seats with better bolstering and support. And imagine that, they even offered things like lumbar support. That sounds preposterous today, but at the time, the other trucks just didn't really have that kind of seat refinements. Along with the access to the cab, Dodge decided to integrate the seat belts into the seat so that you're not tripping over this thing in between where there would normally be a B-pillar. I also like the split opening window on this truck because it's wider than some of the offerings where you only had one single pane.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Yeah, that is a lot different.
Yeah, and I can tell you from experience, from having lumbar well over 8 feet, it's really nice for sticking it through there.
Oh.
So one of the big innovations on the 1994 Dodge Ram was the idea of considering safety features. This was the first full-size pickup that had a driver's side airbag, and that airbag was standard. This was not something that was a priority in the competition at the time, and they quickly changed that. In addition, this was the first full-size truck with four-wheel anti-lock brakes. At the time, rear-wheel ABS was becoming quite common, but even that was an option on some pickups. This truck really was the first to think about safety in the way that the car manufacturers were. Same with the 1997 standard side impact door beams. Yeah, so it was interesting, even while we were driving this truck and the newer design Super Duty yesterday, this is a much quieter truck. And it's not just because of the gas versus the diesel. Noise, vibration, harshness, even by modern standards, isn't offensive. This is a nice truck to drive on a long trip. And I think a lot of it had to do with both the cab ceiling and the aerodynamic design. It doesn't have a tremendous amount of road or wind noise, and it's a pretty pleasant place to spend time. This particular truck is the newer version of that 1994. This was actually a restyle that came around 1998 of the interior, and with that came the dual airbag as standard, some slightly more rounded contours. But what this also shares with the 94 to 97 instrument panel design were controls that were put very close to the driver, very user-friendly. You can turn them on and off with gloves. And it was just something that, if you look back to these other trucks of the early 90s, it wasn't as ergonomically focused. You know, cup holders that could actually hold cups in place, functionality on the steering wheel. In 1994, you know, I'd challenge you, tell me what's on the competition. There's not a whole lot. Nope, you just popped the hood.
I just popped the hood. I'm trying to release the parking brake. Go close the hood, errand boy, boatswain, bosun.
Oh, it's got real door handles.
Dodge Ram is loaded with features pickups aren't supposed to have. Like a full complement of easy-to-read instrumentation, door handles.
Power! She's not fast, but she is smooth.
Yeah.
She does drive smooth, I will give you that. This truck has better NVH.
Yes.
You don't hear all of the ride motions, the suspension jiggling around, the wind noise, the tire noise is less. It doesn't have a V8 grumble at all. You know, V10s sound very different.
It sounds like a wheezing vacuum cleaner.
Like this is, that's everything it has.
So the console on the Ram was something that they made a big deal about in the early advertisements, and this is very similar to the 94 version. You can see that it's quite wide, it's quite long, and quite flat. The idea was that this was really a workstation for people that had a business to manage. And, you know, for a lot of guys, these trucks are their office. And so what they had in here was the ability to carry a laptop at the time, a car phone, you know, organize change, carry pins, all that kind of stuff. And it sounds silly today, but this was a big deal in 1994 and forced the competition to think of little convenience items.
You've replaced the headlights. Is the grill original?
That grill came out of a salvage yard because I wanted one with
I think
good
the whole
chrome.
truck came out of a
Good
salvage
chrome.
yard.
No.
It has fog lights. That's pretty fancy.
Oh, this baby was loaded.
I like this fit. This is really good quality control right here. What do you have to say for that?
Oh, look, what's this? What is this?
Well, that's
Quality
because
control.
it has so much power that it was going so fast, it ripped it off.
Oh, well, I know all about that. I have the same problem. That's what was happening here.
Oh, the speed,
the power
it's
of
the
the air.
speed. The speed was so high.
You got to admit, though, I mean, for the day, this is a good-looking truck. You got this fender line here. It's like a Kenworth. Dodge had a good selection of engine choices when this truck came out in 1994. From a 3.9 liter V6, a 5.2 liter V8, a 5.9 liter V8, and the legendary 5.9 liter Cummins 12 valve turbo diesel. But the real story here, I think, was the 8 liter Magnum V10. I believe it was the first V10 in a volume production vehicle, and Dodge was really sort of forced to make something like that because the 5.2 and 5.9 liter V8 gas engines, also known to the old school guys as the 318 and the 360, had their roots decades back, and they just weren't competitive for horsepower and torque on the higher end of what people were needing in capability and to tow the biggest engines. The turbo diesel was great. Let's just be honest. When Cummins partnered with Dodge, that was one of the smartest business decisions they ever made and kept that old D series in the hunt for those last few years. Otherwise, I don't know if their full-size pickups would have survived. And that engine wasn't largely changed in the 1994 because it was so good. But it was also about a $4,500 option in 2000 when this truck was built, whereas the V10 was about $470. So why did they do it? They needed something that could compete with the 7.4 liter big block V8 from GM as well as the 460 V8 from Ford. And not only did it do that, but it exceeded both in horsepower and torque. And let's just be honest, there's something cool about saying you have a V10 engine and it's 8 liters. They were the top dog, they had the biggest engine around, and they got a lot of press for that. To wrap up this video, I think the story we wanted to tell was that this design was such a significant thing, not only for Dodge, but for the full-size truck industry. It really challenged a lot of status quos. It challenged the other truck makers to think of better, more innovative ways to build their trucks and actually consider these as lifestyle vehicles the family might have, add comfort and convenience features that had never been seen before. You know, and this may look like just some old junky truck that you can pick up for a few $1,000s to most people, but I think it also deserves respect as the truck that changed the industry as we know it for the last 30 years. It also kind of saved Dodge on the full-size truck, its place in the industry, and cemented it there as a permanent, valid competitor. Today, the newest Dodge trucks consistently challenged for #1, and we could not say that in the early 90s about the old D series.
I'm guilty of thinking of Chrysler, Dodge, FCA, Ram, whatever, and the first thing that comes to mind is sort of, oh, well, I really don't trust their quality. And that's really unfortunate, but I think what you're talking about is really important, that this company has always been really one of the leaders in innovation, of pushing that envelope all back through automotive history, right? I mean, for the last, how many years? Decades.
Oh my goodness. I mean, if you look back to the 1950s and 1960s, their power levels with the original Hemi engines in the 300 letter cars, that was a huge deal. Their racing heritage, they were really a company that had a lot of engineers within. I think one of the problems is that sometimes the bean counters got to them, and then when it came to the actual production spec, you know, things just maybe weren't up to the quality that we might expect of some of the other manufacturers. But as far as innovation and features, they've always been there. And at the time of this 94 design Ram, Chrysler was absolutely killing it with innovation. You know, when you take some time and go look sometime at the 1993 Chrysler LH cars. Go look at what they did with the Grand Caravan.
That was huge. I remember that as a kid when that Grand Caravan came
in
out.
'96.
The seating and what you could do with the seats.
But also remember in the '80s, they invented the minivan segment. So this is a company that has a history of innovation, and they had, you know, the iconic Viper at the time. They were doing really bold things in the '90s because, frankly, they had nothing to lose.
Well, Brandon, we appreciate you giving us a tour of this truck and kind of sharing your encyclopedic knowledge of automotive history with us. We really do appreciate that. Anything further to add to the video?
No, I would just say, go out there, look at some of the history of Chrysler. It's very interesting, and what they were doing in the 90s changed the trajectory of the company and really saved them from a pretty dark time for not only the first time, but they have a history of this, but you know, really it's their innovation that has tended to save the day.
Well, I've learned a lot. I hope you guys, the viewers, have learned a lot. As always, please remember to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Remember that I don't accept sponsorships or affiliates or any brand deals, so the only way I keep this channel going is through subscribers like you and letting some of the ads run. So I appreciate it, and thanks again, Brandon, for joining us for this video. We'll see you on the next time. Ride safe, drive safe, travel safe. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Who makes the rules about pickups anyway? There's a new pickup that breaks all the rules, and it's from Dodge.
And you can ride in comfort on the available 40-20-40 seat with adjustable passenger and driver seats that recline and have more seat travel than Ford and Chevy, providing up to 41 inches of legroom.
If there's a rule that says a pickup is not an office, Dodge just broke it. Need a place for your cellular phone? How about a laptop computer? Check out the industry's only flip-down business console. It's a complete convenience storage